Hi, Lisa Neller here. I am your thinking partner for life's greatest challenges. And if you are watching these videos on Atlas of the Heart, I want to thank you for watching. This is important information, and I know I'm not giving you enough of it, which is why I think you probably ought to go out and buy the book, Atlas of the Heart Mapping Meaningful Connection and the Language of Human Experience. And it's by Brene Brown. Reading stuff like this, I know it's like flossing your teeth. You don't really want to do it because it's a pain in the ass, right? But when you do read it and you study things like emotions and psychology and relationships and all of that, it improves your mental health. And why wouldn't you want to do that? That's my passion. Actually, my passion really is to reduce suffering in the world. And the way that I do that is by giving some people some mental health tips and things like that that will help them think better. That's why I call myself a thinking partner. And and practicing things that are going to improve the way you relate to yourself and to other people. Today, I am on chapter 5, day 6 of Atlas of the Heart. I'm just really sharing some excerpts here. And in this, sorry, licked my finger. In chapter 5, Brene is talking about places we go when things aren't what they seem. When things aren't what they seem, I think of as illusion, when things aren't what they seem. But the emotions she talks about here and the concepts are amusement, bitterness, nostalgia, cognitive dissonance, paradox, irony, and sarcasm. Those are places we go emotionally when things aren't as they seem. Now, I have only picked paradox to review today because there was plenty on it and I don't want to bore you to death. So I'm going to share some excerpts from the book. As you know, if you've been watching, I highlight the stuff that I think is important to share, and I haven't memorized it, so that's why I'm reading it. So bear with me. You can close your eyes, you can take notes if you want, or you can just listen. So paradox challenges us to straddle the tension of two conflicting elements and recognize that they can both be true. From its Greek origins, the term paradox is the joining of two words, para, contrary to, and dokein, which means opinion. The Latin term paradoxa means seemingly absurd, but really true. And this term paradox has come into my consciousness this year in a way that it never has before. I'm hearing the word a lot more. I'm studying it. I'm trying to come to terms with paradox, paradoxical thinking, and that kind of thing. So anyway, that's why I picked it. It says that a paradox is the appearance of contradiction between two related components, seemingly opposite words that can be true at the same time, or concepts. Although light and darkness seem to be opposites, you can't have one without the other. The opposing elements of a paradox are inextricably linked. Even though the elements seem contradictory, they actually complement and inform each other in ways that allow us to discover underlying truths about ourselves and the world. Here's an example of paradox from Brené's work. She says, vulnerability is the first thing we look for in other people and the last thing we want to show them about ourselves. Think about that. We want people to be authentic and vulnerable while we, put the curtain up and don't allow people to see us as we are. Now, how can both of these statements be true? If we dig into the tension of that statement, it reveals truth about us. So paradox isn't really the emotion. The emotion is the tension that we feel when we think about a paradoxical concept. We're like in a little bit of turmoil, as we're thinking about this. So we're drawn to authentic and perfect people, but we're scared to let people see who we really are. This is in reference to her work. I want to experience your vulnerability, but I don't want to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is courage in you and inadequacy in me. I'm drawn to your vulnerability, but repelled by mine. Isn't that interesting? Embracing the paradox teaches us how to think deeper and with more complexity. Again, paradox is not an emotion. Much like cognitive dissonance, it starts with thinking, but brings an emotion as we start to feel the tension and pull of different ideas. In the case of paradox, our brain wants to solve the puzzle. However, paradoxes can't be fully resolved using rationality and logic. We need to allow the seeming contradictions to coexist in order to gain deeper understanding. In this way, paradoxes force us to think in expansive ways and lean into vulnerability. So she says about 90% of the work she does is in organizations, working with leaders. The idea of embracing paradox has been fundamental to building organizational cultures for at least 2 decades. In Jim Collins and Bill Lazier's book, BE, Beyond Entrepreneurship, Jim writes, false dichotomies are undisciplined thought. In the words of F. Scott Fitzgerald, the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold 2 opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Builders of greatness are comfortable with paradox. They don't express themselves with what we call the tyranny of the or, this or that, in other words, right? Which pushes people to believe that things must be either A or B, but not both. Instead, they liberate themselves with the genius of the and. Undisciplined thinkers force debates into stark tyranny of the or choices. Disciplined thinkers expand the conversation to create genius of the and solutions. In our research, we found myriad permutations of genius of the and dualities. For example, creativity and discipline, innovation and execution, humility and audacity, freedom and responsibility. In line with Jim's argument, a large body of research shows that rejecting paradox can result in conflict and turmoil. Conversely, engaging with a paradox and accepting the competing elements as both valid can foster creativity, innovation, and productivity. So I pulled some things in relation to relationships, or in the context of relationships, because that's really what I'm focusing on this month leading up to my workshop. So here's an example. Freedom, 2 words that are paradoxical, okay? Freedom and commitment. Freedom is the desire for personal space, autonomy, and unrestricted choices. Commitment, the dedication and obligation to a relationship, often involving sacrifices and limitations on personal freedom. I will say this, that using my own relationship with my husband and myself, we love being together. We love the commitment of being together, but we really like time apart. Like if we didn't have time apart, it would be hard for us. Some couples like to be together all the time, but honestly, it's a good idea to have some alone time. Another pair of words that are paradoxical are security and vulnerability. So security is the need for stability, trust, and assurance in a relationship, and vulnerability is the willingness to expose oneself emotionally, which may involve risks and uncertainty. Here's another one, closeness and space. This is another example of my husband and myself. Closeness is the desire for emotional intimacy and proximity, and space is the need for personal distance and alone time. And then the last one is acceptance and change, and there are actually more. There are a lot more, but I'm just giving you some examples. So acceptance and change. Acceptance, embracing and loving a partner for who they are. That's acceptance. And then change is the inevitability of personal growth and transformation with individuals and relationships. So there you have it. That's a little bit on paradox. I encourage you to look up the word, play with it. Maybe now you'll start to see it in more places. That's kind of what happened to me. I started to notice it, and now I'm reading about it in a lot of different places. So thanks for watching. Just FYI, I am doing a workshop on February 13th, 2024 at noon Mountain Standard Time. It's called Love Mastery Workshop. elevate your relationship game. And I will put the link below. All right, thanks again.